I've tested all the Mindworks Heavy Body Acrylic paint sets. Marco Frisoni claims he won a Golden Demon thanks to these paints, but can that really be true? Are they genuinely that good, or is it just clickbait? Heavy body artist acrylics are a completely different animal from a usual hobby paints, and knowing when to use them makes all the difference. So in this video I'll walk you through their strengths and shortcomings. Italian miniature company Mindworks currently offers 3 paint sets with 21 colors in total, and I've tried them all. I've prepared 3 parts for this video. First, I'll show you which techniques these paints are best suited for and how to get the most out of them, even if you never touched heavy body artist acrylics before. Second, I'll give you a quick review across all 3 sets. And third, you get my honest verdict on whether the Mindworks paints can actually take your hobby to Golden Demon level. By the way, I'm Stahly from Tale of Painters. I'm a real paint nerd, and my channel is all about testing and reviewing the latest miniature paints. I have painted Warhammer and tabletop miniatures for over 20 years, and I also maintain this library of professional, hand-painted color swatches for you to download, the Stahly swatch system. Right, let's get straight to it. Heavy body acrylics behave completely differently from the miniature paints you're probably used to. That makes them well suited for certain techniques and less capable of others. Let me show you what I mean. The Mindworks paints come in tubes like artist paints and contain 30 ml each, so more than double a typical Warhammer color pot. As the name Heavy Body implies, the paints are super thick and creamy. There's no need to shake them as they can't separate, and on a wet palette they stay workable almost indefinitely. In my experience, there are 2 ways to get the best out of heavy body acrylics: go thick or go thin. The in-between zone is where most people run into frustration. Here's why. When you thin artist acrylic paints down to a typical miniature paint consistency, so roughly like whole milk, you'll find the covering power is really poor. When base coating, you generally want a solid covering layer of paint as quickly and evenly as possible. With modern miniature paints, 2 or 3 thin coats usually gets you there, as you can see here. But that doesn't mean artist acrylics are inherently worse or unsuitable for miniature painting. Quite the opposite. High-grade artist paints like Mindworks contain very high-quality pigments in high concentrations. The key is that you need specific techniques to unlock their full potential. The rule of thumb is go thick or go thin. Going thick means taking advantage of that high creaminess and viscosity. This makes the Mindworks paints fantastic for blending, especially wet blending. Here on a zenithal sprayed test Space Marine, I apply a thick undiluted coat of Pyrrole Red. It's important to use a brush with firm bristles for this, because the paint is so thick. Miniature brushes are generally watercolor style brushes made from natural hair like Kolinsky's sable, and those are too soft and would get damaged. I recommend stiffer synthetic bristles instead. I'm using the wolf hair brushes from Chronicle, which are also excellent for heavy body paints. Now I pick up some phthalo blue, which is fairly transparent due to the pigment used, and work it directly into the still wet red on the model. It looks a bit messy at first, but heavy body artist acrylics often have a longer working time, which is perfect for blending. I have plenty of time to mix the 2 colors together and push them exactly where I want them. Applying paints this thickly does mean you need to be careful not to obscure the model's details. But Mindworks paints use a high quality binder and medium, and they dry remarkably smooth even with heavier application. The finish is a soft matte, like a lot of hobby paint ranges like Ionic or 2 thin coats. I'm already pretty happy with that first blend, but I want to refine it a little further. I apply another coat of pure Pyrrole Red, only very slightly thinned, then feather it out with a clean damp brush to soften the transitions. Finally, I add an edge highlight with cadmium orange, and here's the result. I won't be winning a Golden Demon just yet with that, but I do find the Mindworks paints make blending easier than many other miniature paints I've tested. Both the Pyro Red and the Phthalo Blue are single pigment paints, so they each contain just one very high quality vibrant pigment. Because of that, the two colors mix together beautifully, and I could work directly into the red with a high contrast color like blue. Typical miniature paints use a mix of several pigments and often contain additional white pigment or fillers to boost covering power. That's why they usually can't reach the same level of saturation as artist paints, and when mixing and blending, this makes the colors often go a little gray or muddy. So going thick works well, but what about going thin? Here we're drawing on the purity and vibrancy of the artist-grade pigments too. Mindworks paints thin down exceptionally well. I use plain water, no special medium, and the paint can be thinned to extreme levels without breaking apart. With the thinned magenta from the core set, I build up shading on the helmet through thin glazes, creating transitions by feathering. The brush shouldn't be too wet for this, so give it a quick wipe on a paper towel after loading it, then build up multiple thin layers. The magenta has an incredible vibrant intensity, and the result is really impressive. In fact, many Golden Demon and competition level painters paint the majority of their miniatures with hobby paints, then use controlled glazes with artist paints to bring certain areas to life, taking full advantage of that high vibrancy. And because they thin so well, Mindworks paints also work very nicely through an airbrush. They will be quite transparent at that point, but they're excellent for semi-transparent color filters. We'll go through all three sets color by color in just a moment, but remember, when it comes to heavy body artist paints, go thick or go thin is the way. And most importantly, go like the video and subscribe to the channel. I always bring you the latest paint reviews unsponsored and unbiased. I normally focus on miniature paints, but if you'd like to see more artist and heavy body acrylic tests from me, let me know in the comments. Mindworks paints are currently available on the Mindworks website, either individually or in 3 sets, and the price for a 30ml tube is really fair. Set 1 covers 5 core colors: a magenta, primary yellow, phthalo blue, black and titanium white. For the pigment nerds out there, the exact pigment is printed on every tube so you can look it up in pigment databases. With these 5 core colors, you can mix a complete color wheel. The other 2 sets each contain 8 further colors and are dedicated to the palettes of 2 well-known artists. Not miniature painters, but classic illustrators. First up is the set dedicated to the renowned fantasy artist Gerald Brome. Here you'll find some key colors like raw umber and yellow oxide that significantly expand your mixing options for earthy tones, and the Pyro Red I used in the blending demo at the start. There are also 2 pastel shades, a light turquoise and a light magenta. Whether you actually need those is debatable, because with high quality artist acrylics you can easily mix pastel tones yourself using titanium white. The other set is dedicated to art teacher and fantasy artist Patrick J. Jones. Here you'll find more darker and moodier colors. 2 shades of burgundy, a burnt umber that belongs in every palette, and a blue-green. Most of these colors use a mix of multiple pigments, so the colors are less pure. The cadmium orange is also made from 3 pigments. That gives it comparatively high opacity, but also less vibrancy. I used it for the edge highlight on the knee pad here, but honestly I could have used a hobby paint for that. For glazing I would have preferred a more vivid single pigment orange. But the sets do need to reflect each artist's actual palette, so I give them that. And that covers all 21 colors across the 3 sets. Now for my verdict, do Mindworks paints magically turn you into a Golden Demon winner? Probably not, but are they worth recommending anyways? Now, of course, Marco Frisoni's thumbnail is classic YouTube clickbait. He's a top-level painter who knows exactly how to use his tools. The real question is whether the Mindworks paints offer a genuine upgrade for everyday hobbyists. And I would say yes. If you're an enthusiastic painter who wants to push to the next level, heavy body acrylics are absolutely worth trying. Go thick or go thin, the strengths are in blending and glazing. If those are the skills you want to develop, the Mindworks paints are well worth a look. The quality is excellent, the pigmentation is high, and the colors are vibrant and pure, with the exception of the Patrick J. Jones set, which has more muted colors. The medium is very pleasant to work with, and the soft matte finish sets them apart from many classic artist paint brands that often dry very glossy. I'd normally give a score at this point, but since I don't have as much experience with heavy body acrylics as I do with hobby paints, I'll add that in the pinned comment below once I test it more, so keep an eye out for that. If you're earlier in your hobby journey though, or you just want to get great results quickly and efficiently, just stick with paints developed specifically for miniature painting, like Pro Acryl, Ionic, Warpaints Fanatic or AK 3rd Gen, just to name a few. I have loads of reviews on my channel to help you find the best paint. When it comes to pure covering power and ease of use, hobby paints will serve you better than heavy body acrylics in my opinion. A while back I did a ranking where I searched for the easiest yellow to work with across as many paint brands as I could find, including some artist paints from Chimera and Scale 75. I took quite a bit of flack in the comments for ranking those poorly. But find out which yellow came out on top in the video on the right and make up your own mind. Thanks a lot and happy hobbying!